इस समय पे इफ यूर अ यंग फुटबॉल प्लेयर इन इंडिया, आपको आपका जो कंपेटिटिव सीजन है, इट्स बेयरली अबाउट 1 or 2 months. 1-2 महीने आप मैचेस वगैरह खेलते हो. But if you compare that with like Japanese players, Korean players, European players, the actual powerhouses of football, young European football players are playing 8 to 10 month seasons. 8 से 10 महीने के सीजन खेलते हैं जिसमें मिनिमम 35 मैचेस खेलते हैं. Meanwhile, young Indian players 1-2 महीने खेलते हैं, उसमें 3-4 5 से 6 मैचेस खेलते हैं, and that's it. So you're asking part-time football players to go compete with people that treat football like a job. And then you're saying कि ये Indian players जीतते क्यों नहीं है? अरे यार, it's like coughing
अगर
baby
हमारे
versus
प्लेयर
hydrogen
कोई
bomb.
इंग्लिश प्रीमियर लीग और ऐसे सब में भी जाके कोई उनको पिकअप नहीं करता ना.
अभी I think कुछ न्यूज आया ना कि they're easing some OCI restrictions जो हैं कि आपको OCI कार्ड मिल जाएगा, you can represent India while maintaining your overseas citizenship. I think that could be very interesting.
टेनिस में प्रकाश अमृतराज के बेटे को शायद ये फीचर
Right.
दिया था ना,
अरे
ऐसा कुछ
यार,
था ना.
there are countries like Nigeria, Japan, ये Thailand, Ghana,
न्यूजीलैंड
ये सब
में
countries
तूने
नहीं
देखा था ना
करती
कल
हैं.
के मैच में एक सिंह था, सिंह.
हाँ हाँ, एग्जैक्टली, सरबजीत सिंह या समथिंग उसका नाम था.
हाँ, और आज एक पटेल खेल रही है न्यूजीलैंड विमेन्स टीम के लिए, ऑफ स्पिनर है, राइट आर्म ऑफ
बताओ
स्पिनर है, एक पटेल है.
बताओ.
क्रिकेट में
उसमें
जरूरत नहीं है
भी
हमको.
इनके क्रिकेट में भी तो लौंडा है ना, न्यूजीलैंड के तो क्रिकेट में भी एक लौंडा है ना,
रचिन
इंडियन.
रविंद्र,
हाँ,
रचिन
रविंद्र. हाँ.
रविंद्र एक नहीं है, दो है, रचिन रविंद्र और इश्करन सोदी.
सब.
दो दो इंडियन है उनकी टीम में, दो इंडियन है.
शाबाश. तो वही बात है ना. तो it's ये OCI वाला भी could be a game changer, but again without money investment कुछ नहीं होगा
भाई
सर.
यूएसए की पूरी क्रिकेट टीम ही ग्रीन कार्ड है.
इंडियन है. you
यूएसए
have
कनाडा दोनों ग्रीन कार्ड टीम है.
you have to have money investment, serious money investment, serious infrastructure investment. Just do a case study कि क्रिकेट ने कैसे किया, उसका केस स्टडी करो और उसको रेप्लिकेट करो. BCCI ने कैसे किया. And this is, before we wrap up, this is the last thing I wanted to ask you. If you were, अगर आपको क्रिकेट के बारे में मुझसे कहीं ज्यादा पता है, if I were to ask you कि कुशल, what are some lessons that Indian football and other Indian sports, wrestling हो गया, जो भी हो गया, but Indian football can take from BCCI, कि कैसे वो इंडिया को 1981 से 2026 में लेके आए हैं, जहां पे 1981 में लेट्स से cricket is not really much of an entity. 2026 में India is the most powerful cricketing body in the world.
क्रिकेट वाज लकी
What
इट
are the
हैड
lessons?
जगमोहन दालमिया है बॉस. जग्गू दालमिया बहुत, यार उस आदमी
तो
ने बहुत
5
फंडामेंटली
अगर
चेंज
आप
कर दिया.
actionable points दे सको कि क्या क्रिकेट ने किया है that other sports can replicate in India. 5 or
नहीं, आई
6
थिंक
actionable
क्रिकेट
points.
में बहुत, एक तो एक फैन बेस है ना इंडिया में, बहुत पहले से था. आई थिंक इंडियंस जस्ट नेचुरली गॉट अट्रैक्टेड टू क्रिकेट. एक, लोगों को लगता है हाँ क्रिकेट सीरियस खेलनी है तो बहुत पैसे लगते हैं, मगर क्रिकेट अगर टाइम पास खेलनी है तो कोई भी स्पोर्ट जैसे गली में खेल लो या कुछ भी कर लो है. दूसरा, आई थिंक जगमोहन दालमिया वाज अ रियली ड्रिवन मैन एंड हिज पर्सनल लव फॉर द गेम वाज आल्सो देयर. तो वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा
So what did
फैक्टर
he
हो गया.
do? What specifically did he do
He
to help?
created money in cricket. He really brought professionalism in cricket in the mid 80s to late 90s. Jagmohan Dalmia, Bindra, all these people later on, they really became very professional, and it just naturally happened, and one thing started falling into the other, and I think India was just blessed that India had a Tendulkar. बॉस क्रिकेट की हिस्ट्री का ग्रेटेस्ट बैट्समैन है वो.
Right.
भाई ऐसे ही नहीं आता ना. तुम्हारे पास जब तुम्हारे पास गेम के
You
इतिहास का
need like a
ग्रेटेस्ट प्लेयर आता है,
superstar, basically.
वो
You need to create some
सुपरस्टार के
superstars.
नेक्स्ट लेवल था वो.
Yeah, yeah.
तेंदुलकर तेंदुलकर देख, तेंदुलकर
Like जैसे इजिप्ट को देखो, somebody said this is a good point. Like आप तेंदुलकर की बात कर रहे हो ना, इजिप्ट में there is a player called Mohamed Salah, who's a very 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 world class football player.
या वो
And so Egypt में because of him, a lot of
वो
young people
घुंघराले
are now
बाल वाला.
interested in football. हाँ, now a lot of young people are interested in football. They're like कि अरे यार, मोहम्मद साला can now go play at the highest level. He's a superstar. तो हम भी कर सकते हैं.
दैट्स द थिंग. आई थिंक फुटबॉल में वो लेवल का अगर एक प्लेयर भी तुम्हारा कोई इंग्लिश प्रीमियर लीग या ये स्पेनिश लीग या कोई जाके खेल लेगा, तो आई थिंक वो है ना, वो एक जिसको बोलते हैं ना केस स्टडी बन जाती है कि ये कर सकता है तो मैं क्यों नहीं कर सकता. फॉर एग्जाम्पल,
Correct.
एक जमाने में जब इंग्लिश काउंटी क्रिकेट वाज कंसिडर्ड द पिनिकल ऑफ स्पोर्ट, तो तू देखना तुम्हारे पुराने जो ग्रेट प्लेयर्स हैं, भले गावस्कर हैं, ये सब वो लोग इंग्लिश काउंटी क्रिकेट खेलते थे. वो पैसे के लिए खेलते थे, मगर इट वाज वेरी रिस्पेक्टेबल टू प्ले देयर. तो वो सब चीजें होती हैं. ये मगर हमारे पास गावस्कर था टेंडुलकर के पहले, और गावस्कर के पहले हमारे पास कुछ और था. जैसे अजीत वाडेकर लोग भूल जाते हैं, एक बहुत अंडररेटेड प्लेयर है, मगर वो सीरीज जीत के आया है भाई 70s में.
But like Gavaskar and Tendulkar became like superstars, like legitimate
कपिल देव,
superstars.
कपिल देव,
And
कपिल देव,
Kapil Dev, right,
गावस्कर,
right.
देख गावस्कर, कपिल देव, तेंदुलकर, वी जस्ट हैड वन आफ्टर द अदर. देन उसके बाद तो देन द फ्लड गेट्स ओपन ना. तेंदुलकर गया तो विराट आ गया. अब विराट जा रहा है, मेरे को लगता है वैभव सूर्यवंशी है, जायसवाल है, गिल है, अभी तो अनबिलीवेबल है. मैं तेरे को बोलूं, अभी इंडियन क्रिकेट किस लेवल पे आ गया है, एंड आई थिंक इट इज नॉट जस्ट गौतम गंभीर. मैं तेरे को जस्ट एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. इंडियन क्रिकेट एंड इंडियंस आर वेरी पर्सनल माइलस्टोन ऑब्सेस्ड पीपल बिकॉज ऑफ अ सोसाइटी विच हैज स्केर्स रिसोर्सेज. तो आपने क्या अचीव किया, वो बहुत ज्यादा ही कुछ मायने रखता है.
Matter करती है.
टीम स्पोर्ट में साइकोलॉजी.
Hmm.
फर्स्ट वनडे था, कर्टेल्ड वनडे इंटरनेशनल था. गिल could have easily made 100 if he wanted to play selfishly. केएल राहुल आता है, एक ओवर में 20 रन मार देता है, मैच खत्म कर देता है. गिल की 100 नहीं होती. मैं तेरे को बोल रहा हूँ, पुरानी इंडियन टीम में ये नहीं होता था. अभी कैसा हो गया कि इंडियन टीम को अभी इंडियन टीम में वो ऑजी माइंडसेट आ गया है. मैच दाव हमको जीतना है, हम तुम्हारी गांड मारने आने वाले हैं.
हमारा काम है हिंदू लड़कियों को अपना बनाना.
हम कभी नास्तिक नहीं होते, सिर्फ तुम काफिर लोग नास्तिक होते हो.
इस पर जो खर्च कर रहा है उसका
वसूली कर वो.
वो हारेंगे, मगर बॉस बैक टू बैक T20 वर्ल्ड कप जीतना मजाक नहीं है. 4 साल में काफी प्लेयर्स निकल जाते हैं और आ जाते हैं, और इस छोटे से पीरियड में ना इंडिया ने T20 वर्ल्ड कप भी जीता है, एशिया कप भी जीता है, चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी भी जीती है, बहुत कुछ चीजें जीती हैं. इंडिया बहुत जीता. एक वो नल्ले के जैसे 23 के वर्ल्ड कप में फाइनल में हक दिया हमने, नहीं तो 50 ओवर वर्ल्ड कप भी जीतते थे. नहीं तो ये जो पीरियड ऑफ डोमिनेशन है ना हमारी, ये हाँ ठीक है, वी आर स्ट्रगलिंग इन रेड बॉल क्रिकेट बिकॉज बॉस यू सडनली लूज अश्विन, विराट कोहली, रोहित शर्मा. दीज पीपल वर प्लेइंग फॉर लाइक 12
Are they
years.
interested in developing red ball players?
Yes, they are very very serious and they are pushing for it. और मैं तुझे बोल रहा हूँ, अभी ये सब कुछ नहीं है. अभी वैभव सूर्यवंशी को 2 साल दो, मुझे तो हर आसार लग रहा है कि वो
Send him 2-3 years Dagestan and forget.
यस. एंड वैभव सूर्यवंशी, मजा आ गया. उसने जो धक्का मारा ना, तूने वो देखा उसने क्या किया, हरकत बेवकूफ ने. साला भोसड़ी के धक्का मार दिया.
Right.
तो ये है. बट ठीक है, आई थिंक ओवरऑल इंडिया में देखो, फुटबॉल में इतना देखता नहीं हूँ. मैं तो 4 साल में कुछ गेम्स देखता हूँ. इस बार जेन्युइनली, क्योंकि गेम्स अच्छे टाइम पे है, अमेरिका में है लिटरली वर्ल्ड कप, तो मैं दोपहर में वैसे ही नहीं होता रहा, तो मैं मैच देख रहा हूँ ये फुटबॉल के. तो बाकी मैं तो फुटबॉल देखता नहीं हूँ, बट आई वुड लव द इंडियन टीम टू डू वेल. जैसे मैं वुमेन्स क्रिकेट नहीं देखता, मगर आई वांट द इंडियन वुमेन टू विन एंड मेक मनी.
So last couple of things. Okay, one of those things is the only solution is to get the government out of it. BCCI को अगर आप देखो, like how does the BCCI operate that makes them so successful? What does the BCCI do that makes them so successful compared to other sporting bodies?
I think उसके बाद they are very professionally run, honestly.
Okay, so they run like basically a business.
नहीं, they are very professionally run. There is cronyism in BCCI also. I'm not going to say एकदम ही पाक साफ है, मगर यार it is overall very so I'll give you an example. Selectors जो है ना, तू है ना, कभी एक काम करना, चल मैं तेरे को रुक जा बताता हूँ. In the last 3 years, how many times has Pakistan change its national selectors and coaches. अब मैं तेरे को बताता हूँ. In the last 3 years, PCB has had 8 different coaches and 26 different selectors. There is the answer. India में क्या होता है?
You are right about saying that Indian football is basically the PCB because same
Yeah.
number of coaching turnover Indian football में भी है. Same amount of
So,
coaching turnover.
तू ये देख लेना. अभी आगरकर का रेजिम होगा ना, जयशाह will not tell आगरकर इसको सिलेक्ट कर, उसको सिलेक्ट कर. यहां तक कि इंडिया में अगर तुम वेस्ट जोन के प्लेयर थे ना, हिस्टोरिकली, तुम नॉर्थ जोन में जाके स्काउटिंग करोगे ताकि तुम्हारा वेस्ट जोन बायस नहीं
Okay,
आए.
good.
इन क्रिकेट इज डिवाइडेड इन डिफरेंट जोन्स इन इंडिया.
Hmm.
तो ये छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं जो हमने बहुत प्रोफेशनली करी हुई हैं यार. मैं तेरे को बोल रहा हूँ, तू कभी बैंगलोर जाएगा ना, तो वो क्रिकेट एकेडमी, नेशनल एकेडमी ऑफ क्रिकेट देखना. 40-50 एकड़ की हो जो चीजें, तू हिल जाएगा. बोलेगा है इंडिया में ऐसी चीजें होती हैं अभी. अनफ्रिकिन बिलीवेबल है. जो क्रिकेट का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अभी वर्ल्ड क्लास हो गया इंडिया में. सिर्फ स्टेडियम में सुसु नहीं करना, वो नहीं. इंडिया वो बोलेगा हम बाथरूम नहीं बनाएंगे, बाकी सब बना देंगे.
Right.
मगर ओवरऑल I think BCCI is very professionally run. So different people do different jobs. Admin work वो politician appointment करते हैं. मगर जो cricketing bit है ना इंडिया में, वो पूरा cricketers के हाथ में है. और वो लोग, अच्छा दूसरा तू नोट कर, तू पाकिस्तानी YouTube में क्या करेगा? मैं तेरे को, तू 7 पाकिस्तानी रैंडम क्रिकेट यूट्यूबर्स देख लेना. वो लोग अगर वो बोर्ड से एफिलिएटेड नहीं है, वो फुल टाइम बोर्ड और बोर्ड के ऑफिशियल्स को गाली देते रहते हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि they want that job.
Yeah. So
इंडिया
that's
में वो
all
नहीं है.
cronyism basically.
इंडिया में वो कल्चर नहीं है. इंडिया में हर आदमी चाहता है कि हमारी गेम का भला हो. राहुल द्रविड़ जो हमारा वर्ल्ड कप विनिंग कोच था, राहुल द्रविड़ को बहुत बार बोला इंडिया ने कि तू कोचिंग कर. वो नहीं, वो अंडर 19 को कोचिंग करने गया क्योंकि मैं ग्रास रूट्स बनाऊंगा. सो एक हमारे में वो कल्चर भी है कि वी वांट टू गिव बैक टू आवर गेम. अजीब है. आई थिंक हमारे वो फुटबॉल में वो ओवरऑल कल्चर नहीं है. बट
Why don't my players play in Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Japan? Argentina won the league, लेकिन हमको यूरोप जाना है. अरे यार लेंगे तब तो. या हमारे यहाँ तो स्काउटिंग करने वो आते भी नहीं है ना. They don't want to take Indian players necessarily. इंडिया की खुद की जो स्काउटिंग है, फुटबॉल स्काउटिंग है, 2 अकेडमी से लेते हैं वो सारे प्लेयर अपने. This is the extent of Indian football scouting. 2 अकेडमीज हैं, 2 अकेडमी से ये सारी स्काउटिंग करके प्लेयर्स लेते हैं. तो इंडिया में तो स्काउटिंग नेटवर्क भी नहीं है ना. इंडिया में सर्टिफाइड फुटबॉल कोच, जर्मनी has a population of what, 60-70 million, 70 million, 80 million people. They have 28,000 certified football coaches. India has a population of 1.4 billion. Guess how many certified football coaches India has? 325. 325 certified coaches for 1.4 billion people, whereas Germany has 28,000 coaches for 70-80 billion people.
same politicians run BCCI. Baba, BCCI is not run by politicians, is my whole point. BCCI is a very professionally managed organization. And तुमको लगता है जय शाह is not a politician, बाबा. जय शाह was always a cricket administrator. उसका जाके रिकॉर्ड चेक करो गुजरात क्रिकेट में. Jay Shah is actually a full-time cricket administrator. You know, the only criticisms I've heard of Jay Shah, मैं मजाक नहीं कर रहा हूँ, because I tend to meet a lot of people now because of the podcast, and because I do cricket podcasting now, I tend to meet a lot of people who are affiliated with cricket now, journalists, admins. दे से जयशाह ने इतना डरता है अपने बाप की इमेज के बारे में कि वो डिसीजंस डिले करता है.
Hmm.
He could have fired Cricket USA long before he actually did. He
Acha.
could have fired Cricket Canada long before he actually did. He wanted an airtight case.
Hmm.
It's the complete opposite. He's overcautious,
Hmm.
which is fucking frustrating for many people inside. दिले भेजो इतना क्या है, ठोक इसकी. वो नहीं करता. वो बोलता है भाई मेरे पापा का नाम खराब हो जाएगा.
Wow. Sham, can you consider doing World Cup podcasts and watch alongs with Adit, Nikhil and others? It'll be really fun. Yeah. I am planning. Abhi, next week, I'm going to do another podcast going through some of the matches जो अभी round robin में हुए हैं. We'll talk about that. Maybe watch along के लिए, maybe we'll do some more high profile matches. It's जब when we get to the quarters.
मैं तेरे साथ आ जाऊंगा चल देखने, क्योंकि हम लोग
मजा
सेम
आएगा.
टाइम जोन में हैं.
Yeah. So
मगर
that
मैं
will
तेरे को
be
एकदम नल्ले क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा क्योंकि मुझे गेम की कोई समझ नहीं है.
best है. Best है.
बिकॉज
कोई tension
आई
नहीं
डोंट
है.
माइंड लर्निंग. मैं तो निखिल को
Yeah.
वॉइस नोट्स भेजता रहता हूँ, इसका क्या मतलब है, इसका क्या मतलब है.
Yeah. So we'll do when the high profile matches come around, like maybe the quarters and the semis, something like that. Then we'll do a watch along. That'll be fun to do. मजा आएगा वो देखने में.
बाकी का मुझे
like,
मालूम नहीं है. फिर से मैं रिमाइंड कर रहा हूँ भोसड़ी वालों,
Yeah,
मेरी
go
बुक
ahead.
लॉन्च पे
We'll
आना.
wrap up now.
मेरी बुक लॉन्च पे आना. 28 जून को मेरी बुक लॉन्च है. 3 बजे मिसिसागा में एंसिलास इंडियन क्यूजीन में समोसा मिलेगा तुमको. मगर अगर मेरी बुक खरीदोगे तब. जो मेरी बुक नहीं लेगा उसको समोसा नहीं मिलेगा उस दिन. गांड मारा जो मेरी बुक नहीं लेगा. हाथ खाली हुआ, मेरी बुक नहीं दिखी मुझे, मैं समोसा छीन लूंगा तुम्हारा. अभी का अभी रजिस्टर करो और लिंक होगा.
और ये
Anyway,
QR
चलो.
कोड भी है. Easiest is to just pause
हाँ,
the video
QR
and
कोड
do the
सबसे,
QR
हाँ
code.
वो
सबसे
ये
आसान
QR
तरीका
कोड
वही है.
है, इतना बड़ा वाला
वीडियो
QR
पॉज
कोड है.
करो, QR कोड स्कैन करो. सबसे आसान तरीका है. कुछ लिंक विंक पे क्लिक नहीं करना है. सबसे आसान तरीका यही है. Just do
Yes.
that. Yeah.
And see you all on the 28th. तो ये वर्ल्ड
चलो
कप कब तक चलता है वैसे श्याम?
अभी ये 19 जुलाई तक चलेगा.
ओ वाओ, इतना लंबा चलेगा.
Because there are more teams now. Usually there used to be 32 teams. Now there are 48 teams. So more matches.
ओके.
Yeah.
इनको भी
19 जुलाई
पैसा
तक
बनाना है.
चलेगा. मजा आएगा.
चलो
चलो
बढ़िया.
फिर तब मिलेंगे. ध्यान रखो. Thank you for joining us for this football discussion. I just wanted to talk about it because I feel very passionately that India में कुछ football develop हो. But
के पन्ने में समोसा लपेट के
पेपर में लपेट के.
ब्लैस्फेमी. समोसा खा रहा हूँ बुक के पन्ने में लपेट के.
चलो फिर मिलते हैं अगले एपिसोड में यार. ध्यान रखो तब तक. See you next time. Tata bye.
What happens when the game changes?
India, home to 1.4 billion people, a football-mad fan base in Bengal, Kerala, Goa and the Northeast, some of the oldest football traditions on the continent, including the world's third oldest football tournament. Yet, the national team sits at around 140 in the FIFA rankings as of mid-2026. They've never been to the World Cup. They couldn't even make it this year when the tournament was expanded to 48 teams, whereas teams like Curaçao, a tiny island nation with a population of 155,000 people, made it to the World Cup. Cup. Countries like Faroe Islands with a population of 55,000 people are ranked above India in the FIFA rankings. Do you want to know how embarrassing that is? Because 55,000 people is how many people live in a random colony in Karol Bagh in Delhi. 55,000 people is how many people will show up to celebrate if a B-tier YouTube celebrity wins Big Boss. That's how embarrassing it is. The Indian Super League, once seen as the great savior of Indian football, went through a near total collapse in 2025, with clubs halting operations, wages going unpaid, and the Supreme Court having to intervene to force an open tender for commercial rights. I honestly don't know who's having a worse year, Indian football or the Trinamool Congress party. So what is the deal with Indian football? Because the tragic thing about Indian football is not like India has no talent for football or that they've always sucked at football. In fact, there was a time when India was the most powerful team in Asia and one of the strongest teams in the world. So today we're going to talk about the sad story of Indian football, a nation that once led Asia as the primary football superpower and then systematically dismantled everything it had ever built. And then we'll try to answer the question that, is there any way to fix Indian football? Can India ever make it to the World Cup? And what do we have to do in order to make that distant dream into a reality? Hello, and welcome to a World Cup themed episode of the Sham Sharma Show. It's great to be with you. Happy World Cup month, and to all of you. See, the crazy thing about the horrible state of Indian football is that no matter how hard it is for you to believe, India was not always a meme football country. Football arrived in India through the British, introduced by soldiers and colonists in Calcutta, now Kolkata, in the mid-19th century. Nagendra Prasad Sarvadhikari, known as the father of Indian football, is credited with popularizing the game among local Indians in the 1870s. Clubs like Mohun Bagan, which was founded in 1889, soon followed, and in 1911, the club made history by becoming the first Indian team to win the IFA Shield, defeating East Yorkshire Regiment 2-1, which was a moment of huge nationalist pride during colonial rule in India. The Durand Cup, which was established in Shimla in 1888, is the third oldest football tournament in the world and the oldest in Asia. The IFA Shield, founded in 1893, is the fourth oldest. In fact, people might look at India's football history and think, wow, they've never even come close to qualifying for the World Cup. But that's just not true. India actually qualified for the World Cup in 1950. India was drawn in Group 3 to face Sweden, Italy, and Paraguay. They just never showed up. The All India Football Federation, or the AIFF, announced withdrawal citing lack of practice time and disagreement over team selection. The more accepted explanation is that India's football administrators simply did not view the World Cup as prestigious enough to merit sending a team to Brazil. They believed that the Olympics was much more prestigious and the World Cup was simply a small secondary tournament. Unfortunately, the consequences were catastrophic in retrospect. FIFA subsequently banned India from the 1954 World Cup qualifiers due to the late withdrawal in 1950. And in a stunning act of cutting off your nose to spite your face, the AIFF retaliated by deciding not to participate in World Cup qualifiers at all. And this boycott of the World Cup continued from 1954 to 1986. So the Indian Football Federation was like, oh, you'll disqualify me? I will disqualify myself. It's like the Russell Peters meme come to life.
You kill me. F you. I kill me.
Which is an unbelievably 4D chess and galaxy brain decision by India. They effectively removed themselves from the world's most important football competition for over 3 decades, precisely during the period when football was exploding in popularity around the globe, particularly in Asia. And here is where it gets even more crazy. Despite the World Cup disaster, the decade that followed was arguably India's finest in football. Under the legendary coach Syed Abdul Rahim, a visionary tactician who was known as the magician from Hyderabad, India became the undisputed best team in Asia. This is a true story. Look at what India achieved in this era. In the 1951 Asian Games, India won gold, defeating Iran 1-0 in the final. In the 1954 Asian Games, India finished second. In the 1956 Olympics, India reached the semi-finals, and they even defeated Australia 4-2 in the first round, where Neville D'Souza scored a hat-trick, making him the first Asian to score a hat-trick at the Olympic Games. And India became the first Asian team to reach the Olympic semi-finals. In the 1962 Asian Games, India won the gold again, beating the mighty South Koreans 2-1 in the final. In 1964, India were runners-up again. This is how dominant the Indian football team was in the 50s and the early 60s. The players of this era, like P.K. Banerjee, Chunni Goswami, Tulsidas Balram, Neville D'Souza, Jarnail Singh, and Sailen Manna, were celebrated across Asia. They were genuine football icons. P.K. Banerjee was named the Indian Footballer of the 20th Century by FIFA, and Chunni Goswami made 84 appearances and scored 65 goals for India. Now, this was the absolute zenith of Indian football, but unfortunately, little did football fans know that this was to be the final hurrah of Indian football. It was like when Arsenal won the Premier League in 2004 and became invincible. Arsenal fans were eating so good, the team was so dominant that they thought the good times would never end. Well, they did. Just like Arsenal entered the banter era, Indian football was about to enter a much more prolonged banter era. India's talismanic coach, Syed Abdul Rahim, died in 1963, and then Indian football lost its guiding genius. But unfortunately, the institutional failures that followed his death were far more damaging than any one person's absence. Along with boycotting the World Cup qualifiers, India also decided to boycott the Asian Cup qualifiers from 1970 to 1980. So not only did India remove itself from the World Cup for 30 plus years, they also removed themselves from the most important football tournament in Asia for a decade. So basically, India simply did not compete in the major tournaments that were shaping and growing Asian football. While Japan, South Korea, and other West Asian nations like Iran and Iraq were building professional structures and competing regularly at the highest levels, India was completely absent. And think about the timing here. This was such a sliding doors moment for Indian football. If India during this decade takes the sport seriously, it honestly could have become India's national sport instead of cricket. Japan launched its first National Football League in 1965, whereas India's first National Football League did not arrive until 1996, 31 years later. Even when they saw that football leagues were making money and participating in international tournaments could make their own footballing bodies rich, they still didn't want to take any steps to improve football in India. It's like the Indian Football Federation were allergic to money. Earning money was to Indian Football Federation what examination integrity is to the Indian government today. The closed socialist economy of the Nehru era and afterward also starved the sport of private investment. Newcomers like Japan and Arab teams started pouring resources into their systems and got better eventually. Economic basket cases like India and Myanmar lost out. So I'm hoping that you're starting to get an image of what was happening to Indian football. Indian football didn't die an organic death. It was put in a rear naked choke and deliberately choked out by the Indian Football Federation. See, a sport will only become popular in your country if there is a competitive league, if there is investment, if there are world-class players, and if your team is competing with the best teams and players in the world. That creates a sense of competition. It creates a sense of loyalty in the fans towards the player and the team. It creates a sense of patriotism, seeing your team and your players compete with the best team and the players in the world. That's why cricket is so popular today, because that is the soul of a sport and the fundamental key to its popularity in a country. But Indian football deliberately removed itself from competing on the international stage for almost 40 years. The fan base that should have developed after Indian football's golden age of the 50s and 60s just never got a chance to develop. There were no world-class players that were playing in prestigious global tournaments and giving other countries a run for their money. There was nothing to root for in Indian football for a football fan. And in the 1980s, whatever little hope people thought football had was completely extinguished, because in 1983 a hammer blow was delivered to Indian football. India's 1983 Cricket World Cup victory under Kapil Dev was a culture-altering event. It was telecast to millions of people in India. Indians were able to see Indian sportspersons taking on the most elite sportspersons from around the world and beating them and winning the World Cup. Not only was it a big sporting achievement, but it was a big cultural achievement. For India to win the World Cup in the United Kingdom, a country that used to once control India. It transformed cricket into a near religious institution with a commercial and media apparatus under what became BCCI. India now generates an estimated 80% of all global cricket revenue. Unfortunately, football never had its equivalent of a galvanizing moment. No Indian team ever won an event that captured the national imagination the way the 1983 World Cup did. And you know how Indian cricket created this iconic moment of winning the World Cup? By participating in the bloody World Cup. How do you generate iconic moments if you refuse to participate in those iconic moments? The story of Indian football today is even more depressed. So things were bad, but somehow it gets worse. Somehow the story of Indian football today is even more depressing than it was a couple of decades ago. See how Indian football operates, particularly Indian youth football. The average young footballer in India today participates in only about 2 months of competitive matches per year, while their European counterparts engage in about 10 months. In Europe, kids in club academies and local leagues play weekend fixtures almost every every week across 8 to 10 months, on top of midweek cups and school games. In India, there is no dense nationwide network of district and city youth leagues that guarantee 30 to 40 games a season, the way county district systems do in Europe. This means India is effectively developing part-time footballers and then sending them to compete against full-time professionals. No governance reform or coaching change can overcome this fundamental developmental deficit. We have created a structure where we're training part-time athletes and asking them to go compete against full-time killers and qualify for the Asian Championships and the World Cup. We're literally sending coughing babies to go compete against hydrogen bombs and then acting shocked when the coughing baby gets absolutely obliterated. Let's see what else is wrong with the Indian footballing ecosystem. Number one, it's fundamentally fragmented at every level, because football is popular in West Bengal, Kerala, Goa and the Northeast, but it remains a marginal sport in the rest of the country. Germany, with a population of like 80 something million, has 28,000 certified coaches. India, with a population of 1.4 billion, has only 300. ...124 certified coaches. Former Indian coach Stefan Constantine found that AIFF's Elite Academy was recruiting players from just 2 youth tournaments in Delhi. So basically, Indian football has no scouting system at all. And for what a meme Indian football has become, we have to talk about the governing body of Indian football, which is All India Football Federation. The All India Football Federation was effectively ruled by 2 politicians, Congress leader Priyaranjan Das Munshi and Praful Patel, for 34 continuous years. And here is where it gets really funny and also really sad. Priyaranjan Das Munshi, a senior Congress leader, held the AIFF presidency from 1989 until he suffered a stroke in 2008 and fell into a coma. And even though he was in a coma since 2008, he technically remained the president of AIFF until he died in 2017, which means that Indian football's governing body was led by a man in a coma for 9 years. This is what we're dealing with. The top body controlling Indian football and the direction of Indian football was being led by a guy who was in a coma for 9 years. After him comes Praful Patel. Praful Patel served 3 terms of 4 years each as AIFF president, exceeding the maximum permitted under the Government of India's National Sports Development Code. In May 1922, the Supreme Court of India intervened and removed Patel from his position after a petition by Delhi FC. The court then appointed a committee of administrators to manage the AIFF, a move that, while good, triggered an incredible consequence. FIFA suspended the AIFF due to undue influence from third parties, the Supreme Court being this third party. Another big reason for the downfall of Indian football was the major decision that was taken by the AIFF at a time when they were led by a man who was in a coma. In 2010, AIFF signed a 15-year, 700 crore master rights agreement with Reliance, giving Reliance full commercial and marketing control over Indian football through Football Sports Development Limited, FSTL. This single decision, while it was meant to improve Indian football, improve the quality of Indian football, and inject some money into Indian football, ultimately created a structural conflict of interest that would ultimately collapse Indian football 15 years later. See, since 2014, Indian football has been split between 2 competing national leagues, the Indian Super League ISL, a franchise-based competition modeled after the IPL, and the I-League, the traditional merit-based top division. Now, this division between the 2 leagues has been uniquely destructive to Indian football. This is because the ISL was designed with no promotion or relegation, meaning clubs cannot be demoted regardless of performance. Now, this protected investor money in the league, but it completely severed the meritocratic connection between lower division clubs and the top flight. I'll give you an example. The World Cup is going on right now. Imagine if it was announced that the countries who have qualified for the current World Cup would qualify for every single World Cup from now on, no matter what. And all the other countries that didn't qualify this year would never qualify again. The problem is that it would completely defeat the purpose of the World Cup. The incredible excitement of the World Cup is related to the fact that every nation in the world is competing to participate in the tournament. That's not what was happening with the Indian Super League. On the other hand, you have the I-League clubs, many of them century-old institutions with deep community roots, were systematically sidelined in favor of the ISL's commercial model. And see, initially the launch of ISL was pretty transformational for Indian football. India's FIFA ranking climbed from 173 in 2015 to 96 in 2017 after the league began within just 2 years. Indian players gained sustained exposure to high-quality foreign professionals. Stars like Luis Garcia, Alessandro Del Piero, Alessandro Nesta, Robbie Keane, and Dimitar Berbatov played in India. But again, the problem is that a lack of a functioning promotion-relegation pyramid is one of Indian football's most structural failures. Without it, there is no pathway for ambitious lower division clubs, no pressure on ISL clubs to perform, and no incentive for grassroots clubs to develop talent, knowing that their best players will simply be poached with no reciprocal benefit to the football ecosystem. Clubs with passionate fan bases in the I-League could win their league and still not earn entry into the ISL. ISL clubs could finish last every single season and still remain in the top flight. All the incentives for good performance were gone. And the AIFF also had no incentives because the AIFF received approximately 50 crores annually in fixed payments from the FSDL simply for granting rights without being accountable for football development, club sustainability, or competitive outcomes. For 15 years, AIFF officials collected salaries and federation payments without needing to do the hard work of building a football ecosystem. This is who we are dealing with. In the AIFF, we have basically asked a methamphetamine and fentanyl addict to run the CERN Super Collider or the Mars Exploration Mission. They're going to blow up the entire planet. And as a result of this failure, by 25-26, the AIFF had descended into a full-blown governance crisis. And unfortunately, even today, after the government had changed, the Congress government went away, the BJP government came to power, the BJP government, and particularly Prime Minister Modi, has talked a lot about how he wants to improve sports in India, how he wants sports to be a genuine pathway for young people to improve their lives. But unfortunately, even in 2026, the situation is no better. Praful Patel was finally removed in 2022, and an ex-Indian goalkeeper named Kalyan Chaube was installed as the head of the AIFF. But even today, the AIFF has descended into a full-blown governance crisis. The AIFF's principal legal advisor wrote a letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi alleging systematic corruption by Kalyan Chaube. No commercial partner was secured for the ISL after the Reliance FSDL agreement expired, leading to the 2025-26 season being suspended entirely. Clubs halted operations indefinitely. Players went without wages. AIFF's principal legal advisor Nilanjan Bhattacharya, in the letter that he wrote to Prime Minister Modi in 2024, also said that it was very suspicious that India initially bid to host the 2027 AFC Club Championship and then suspiciously withdrew, a bid that had already cost 72 lakhs in pre-bidding investment and had reasonable prospects of success. The former AIFF media head Jaideep Basu was sacked after speaking out against alleged financial mismanagement, publicly claiming that Chaube and Secretary General Anil Kumar were wasting football's money while employees suffered. Also under Kalyan Chaube's leadership, coaching education programs, which should form the backbone of any football development system, were alleged to have become over-commercialized. Critics argue that AIFF's academy accreditation process prioritizes revenue generation over the quality of the ecosystem, allowing programs to purchase accreditations without meeting stringent development metrics. Another problem is that players graduating from these academies found that there was nowhere for them to play professionally. So clearly, Indian football is in a very bad state today. It's as bad today as it probably has ever been. Obviously, the government knows this as well because they've recently announced some steps to revive Indian football. Clearly, the government knows this as well. So let's see what their solution is for reviving the sport. Because look, any sport can only grow if a significant investment is made in the development of the sport. But the Indian government has chosen, let's say, an interesting solution. The Indian government has cut the funding of Indian football by 85% between 2019 and 2022, citing poor performance of the national team. So apparently, the government of India believes that the best way to grow a sport is to treat it how your mother treats you if you forget to do your homework. The government of India basically said that we're going to cut funding to a sport that is performing poorly because it is performing poorly. This is the equivalent of cutting a hospital's budget because there aren't enough qualified doctors and patients are dying. Look, I understand that accountability is very important, particularly in a poor country like India where every penny matters. But in what universe is cutting funding for a sport going to improve the development of the sport? Imagine if the first ISRO moon mission failed and then the government slashed the ISRO budget by 99% and said that now you have 100 rupees available, please use it wisely and go to the moon. And if you can't manage it next year, the budget will go down to 50 rupees. This is what we're dealing with. At one point, the football budget was around 6 to 8 crores. And with that 6 to 8 crores, the national coach's annual salary alone needed to be paid, which was around 2.4 crores. The remaining 4 to 6 crores were supposed to cover legal and administrative costs, grassroots football, youth national teams, women's football, and all training and competitive costs. In fact, sports like yachting, equestrian, and tennis, with combined participation numbers that are a fraction of Indian football, receive more government funding. Who the hell is doing equestrian in India? Bloody Gabbar Singh?
हमको नहीं पता.
हमको कुछ नहीं पता.
So look at India's investment and compare that with a country like Germany. Germany invested approximately $681 million in youth development between 2001 and 2011 before seeing major results at the 2014 World Cup. If the Indian government was controlling the German Football Federation during this period, German football would have just been defunded, just as it was planting the seeds for its World Cup winning generation. Now look, even though things are pretty dire, pretty horrible, there are some positive developments. In 2023, the AIFF released Vision 2047 with a clear goal of making India a top 4 Asian football nation by 2047. The plan includes a 5-level men's league pyramid targeting ISL, I-League, I-League 2, 5 zonal leagues, and 36 state championships. The Blue Cubs grassroots program targeting 35 million children aged 4 to 12 by 2026 and 100 million by 2047. Increasing certified coaches from 324 to 25,000 and a minimum of 35 competitive matches per year for boys across all youth age groups. They also said that a national center of excellence modeled on successful examples like England, Germany, Belgium, and Morocco will be set up, and they're aiming for a 500% increase in AIFF revenue over the first 3-year plan. Now, the targets are very good and it addresses real problems. However, it might not surprise you to know that the AIFF has already missed its targets that it set for itself in 2026. But while the men's team has completely collapsed in the rankings, the Indian women's national team is actually doing quite well. In July 2025, India won the AFC Women's Asian Cup qualifiers in Chiang Mai by defeating Thailand in the final, qualifying directly for the AFC Women's Asia Cup, a feat which has never been achieved before. Additionally, East Bengal FC became the first Indian team to win a main draw match in the AFC Women's Champions League. So the women's team represents perhaps the most genuine cause for optimism in Indian football right now. But look, I'm very happy that the AIFF has come out with this plan for 2047. And people might think, rightly so, based on the track record of Indian football and AIFF, that Indian football is hopeless. But look, there have been other countries that have been in the position that India is in today and have turned the situation around. In fact, a perfect example exists in Asia. Take, for example, Japan.
Before the 90s, Japanese football wasn't on the map. The national team had never qualified for a World Cup, and the domestic game was run by corporations. Fan culture was nearly non-existent, but in 1992, the J-League was formed, and they created a hugely ambitious project, a 100-year plan to build a football fan culture from scratch. Now, after just 33 years, this plan has completely transformed Japanese football.
In the early 1980s, Japan was not even an Asian footballing powerhouse, let alone a world player. They had never qualified for a World Cup, and their league was extremely amateur. The transformation began with a deliberate, multi-decade strategic plan.
The J-League encompasses 60 teams in 3 divisions, J1, J2, and J3, and the level has risen so much in recent years that even the J2 is considered one of the top leagues in Asia. But equally impressive is the J-League fan culture.
In Japan, youth football is taken seriously, not as a means to get a government job. In 1981, Japan invested in cultural promotion of football through the manga series Captain Tsubasa, which inspired an entire generation of children to fall in love with football.
You see, Captain Tsubasa is an anime/manga that follows the story of Tsubasa Uzora, a Japanese student who is deeply in love with football and dreams of one day winning the World Cup for Japan. The story's premise is simple, but this sort of story helped encapsulate millions of Japanese people into the sport, boosting its popularity. In fact, the reason why this relates back to Hidetoshi Nakata, one of the most notable names in Japanese football history, is because Captain Tsubasa was the main motivation for Nakata to get into football and play it professionally. And without this manga series influencing him, he might have never played the sport in general.
The role of pop culture in building grassroots enthusiasm cannot be overstated. Unfortunately, the only thing we have is dhan dhana dhan goal. Japan has really focused on taking their football clubs and really integrating them into the community so that there is genuine love for your local football club within the community. That's how love for football develops in young people.
In Japan, high school football is no joke. It's incredibly intense and competitive and produces some of the best talents in the country. One of the most popular sporting events in all of Japan is the High School National Tournament, which fills stadiums and millions of people tune in to watch live.
And look at the result. Japan has qualified for every World Cup since 1988. In 2022 in Qatar, they eliminated both Spain and Germany from the group of death. They've produced world-class players like Shinji Kagawa, Keisuke Honda, Hidetoshi Nakata, and Takefusa Kubo. The entire transformation took approximately 30 years of consistent investment. So it can be done, but it has to be done seriously. It needs to be funded genuinely, and there needs to be a consistent philosophy for the next 30 to 40 years if India has any hope to ever make the World Cup. So what does the path forward look like for India? Well, the single most urgent priority for India is depoliticizing the AIFF. No more politicians, no more ministers. The federation needs leadership drawn from football professionals, qualified former players, grassroots administrators, technical directors, rather than political appointees. You need an independent regulatory body overseeing AIFF finances and decisions, which is essential to break the cycle of corruption and short-termism. The performance-linked funding model must be replaced with a National Football Development Fund. This is a ring-fenced, constitutionally protected endowment which cannot be cut based on short-term national team performance. Funding disbursements should be conditional on audited development KPIs, number of children in Blue Cups, number of certified coaches, number of youth competitive matches played annually, rather than just national team performance, which is an outcome of investment, not a precondition for investment. The ISL I-League conflict must be resolved with a single unified pyramid that includes promotion and relegation at every single level. Every single successful football nation in the world has a promotion relegation pyramid. Every ISL club must be required by licensing regulations to operate and fund minimum 3 age group academies, under 13, under 17, under 20, as a condition of league participation. This is the same as the German Bundesliga model post 2001. Every state should be required to operate under 13, under 15, under 17, under 19 leagues running from September to June each year. India must develop a coherent pipeline. District tournaments to state academies to ISL youth leagues to professional contracts. A clear pathway must be developed for young players so that they can become professional players not just in India but potentially outside of India in the more lucrative leagues. It's very important for India to hire a qualified technical director. The technical director role must be given to a world-class football professional with experience in building national team systems, who is ideally from a country with a successful development story like Japan, Belgium, Morocco or Germany. The technical director, and not the elected president of AIFF, should hold the final authority on national team player selection, coaching appointments and youth team philosophy. India has also recently announced a diaspora policy that OCI card holders of Indian descent who are playing football in Europe, Australia or North America could be eligible to represent India without relinquishing foreign citizenship under a FIFA compliant non-citizen eligibility framework. This is a very good step because countries like Nigeria, Thailand and Ghana have benefited massively from this policy. India is looking to currently make a bid for the 2036 Olympics. I also think that after that, they should try and seriously make a bid for hosting the FIFA World Cup either in the 2040s or the early 2050s, because hosting a major FIFA tournament is the single most powerful catalyst for infrastructure development, national football consciousness, and investment attraction in the game's history. So look, if India ever has to make it into the World Cup, if India ever has to become a football nation, you have to start now. Japan implemented its plan with extreme discipline and great vision, but it still took them 30 years. The 30-year window for the 2050s World Cup is already open today. Use Bollywood, use digital content to create a culture for football, create a community-based club identity. Indian football is not failing because Indians cannot play football. It's failing because the institutions that were supposed to develop the sport have systematically failed the sport for over 5 decades. It is my dream to one day watch India participate in the World Cup, and I hope that this video and I hope that the steps that we've outlined in this video can help India get back on track and join the elite of world football. But ultimately what it comes down to is not money, is not resources. It comes down to will. It comes down to discipline. Does the Indian government, does the Indian Football Federation specifically have the will and the discipline to plan and execute a 30-year plan to get India back in the World Cup and back among the elites of Asian football? That's the question. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The current evidence, however, unfortunately, is not very encouraging. But other than that, are you watching the World Cup? Who is the team that you're supporting currently in the World Cup? What do you think India needs to do to potentially play in the World Cup in the 2050s? Let me know in the comment section down below. Other than that, guys, if you like these videos, please suggest what other videos should I do in this English explainer series? What other topics would you like to see? Would you like to see more about sports, more about football, more about history, more about politics? Let me know in the comment section down below. Other than that, we'll see you for the next episode. And until then, stay happy, stay healthy. We'll see you for the next one. And to all of you, a secular pranam.
Whether you are a software engineer, developer, or even a director, there is one expectation today across all companies.
अफ्रीकी देश जिसका नाम तक शायद आज से कुछ साल पहले तक आपने नहीं सुना होगा, आज तेल के पैसों से लबालब सऊदी और कतर इन जैसे मालदार मुल्कों की नींद उड़ाए हुए है।
The Ibrahim Traore decree was not a sudden strike against Islam. It was a desperate defensive shield raised to protect the nation's remaining independence. The young administration chose to act drawing a line in the sand that shocked the international community. They demanded that the state belong to everyone and that the public square remain neutral. But this internal decision immediately triggered an astonishing wave of external fury. The panic did not stop at the borders of West Africa. It traveled thousands of miles across the Red Sea, destabilizing the diplomatic corridors of some of the wealthiest kingdoms on earth.
और हैरानी की बात यह है कि ना इस देश के पास उनके जैसा पैसा है, ना ही उनके जैसी ताकत। फिर भी इसके एक नौजवान फौजी कैप्टन ने वो कर दिखाया है जो बड़े-बड़े देश सोचने से भी कतराते हैं।
Captain Ibrahim Traore, 36 years old, full military uniform. He is running one of the most active war zones on the planet. He made a move that no one saw coming. He banned God from government buildings and people took to the streets.
बात हो रही है बुर्किना फासो और उसके एक नेता इब्राहिम ट्रोरे की। अभी पिछले ही महीने इस देश की सरकार एक ऐसा कानून लेकर आई जिसने गल्फ के इन रईस देशों की दशकों पुरानी एक बहुत बड़ी चाल पर सीधा हमला बोल दिया। इस कानून के तहत मस्जिदों, मदरसों, इमामों, इन सबको सरकार की सीधे निगरानी में लाया जाएगा। बाहरी देशों से आने वाली रिलीजियस फंडिंग उसके ऊपर सीधी सीधी नजर रखी जाएगी और भड़काऊ भाषण वो देने पर तो सीधा गिरफ्तारी हो जाएगी। जब देश के सबसे बड़े सुन्नी प्रीचर ने इस कानून का विरोध किया तो ट्रोरे ने उसे गिरफ्तार करवा दिया। 100 से ज्यादा कट्टरपंथियों को हिरासत में ले लिया।
An imam named Mohammed Ishaq Hindu publicly protested Traore's decree. He was arrested.
और देश की सबसे बड़ी मस्जिद पर ताला लगवा दिया। अब सवाल ये उठता है कि आखिर एक गरीब अफ्रीकी देश के इस कदम से सऊदी और कतर जैसे ताकतवर मुल्कों को घबराहट क्यों हो रही है?
Saudi Arabia, the country financing over 80% of those mosques.
इस एक कानून में ऐसा क्या है जो उनकी सालों की मेहनत पर पानी फेर सकता है?
Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso kept making Africans proud, especially the young people of Africa. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, called Ibrahim Traore and offered to build 200 mosques this Ramadan for the people of Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore appreciated him extensively for this gesture, but instead offered an alternative. He said, Crown Prince bin Salman, we really needed your support, but then what we want is not building mosques. What we want you to do, Crown Prince, is that build schools, hospitals and factories.
और सबसे जरूरी बात ये कि इस पूरी कहानी में हमारे अपने देश भारत के लिए क्या छुपा हुआ है। तो यही समझने के लिए हमें थोड़ा सा पीछे चलना होगा और ये समझना होगा कि आखिर इन तेल वाले देशों की अफ्रीका में असली दिलचस्पी थी क्या।
Artificial intelligence. No, machine learning.
Both of you are wrong. It's data science.